Hey everyone, sorry it's been so long, but here we are in all of our beauty and glory. Beauty, glory. It's hard to keep my hands off you, you know. She's pretty, she's pretty sexy, gotta say.
All right.
What?
I don't like when you say that
Uh
on here.
oh.
Yeah.
Is it
Makes
bad?
me embarrassed.
Well, what are you gonna do? But there are times for hands on and there are times for hands off.
Mhm.
And the Lord built that into the system. And yes, it does suck sometimes to not be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, but it's okay. Sometimes we got to take a break. And distance makes the heart grow fonder, or can make it wander. But I don't wander, I fonder. I'm fondle. Eee. Anyway,
Oh gosh.
it's probably a lot easier for her to keep her hands off me than me to keep my hands off her.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. You don't touch me very often.
I didn't know you were needing touched more often.
Ooh, it's my love language, honey. Come on. Oh. Is that all we're going to talk about?
I don't know.
You don't have much to say here? Too embarrassed? All right. Well, I think, you know, nida, again, it sounds like a dirty thing or, you know, something that we have to try to not talk about. But I think the Lord does put that into the world to help us to remain self-controlled. Even in marriage, there are times when it's appropriate to touch and when it's not appropriate to touch. And so I think those times are good for separation. And Mom and I try not to physically touch during those times, even hugging or touching hands or really anything. And so it's we actually sleep in separate beds, which I think is good. And I think we've done that now for pretty much our whole marriage. I mean, I'd say, well, maybe not the first couple of years, maybe, but see, a few years, maybe. I'm not sure. Done it for quite a while.
Mhm. For sure, since we moved here, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because we had the day bed in our bedroom.
Mm-hmm. What about
Fox Street?
did we do the Fox Street?
No, not Fox Street. Macintosh.
Macintosh?
I don't think so. No, Chasing Garrett's. I don't think.
No, maybe not. We didn't really know much about it, honestly. It wasn't really a concept that we had thought about. I think obviously we avoided the full-on thingy, but I mean that was pretty obvious. But whether or not I don't even know if we didn't touch then either. We don't think we're probably not as you know not as strict about it. But anyway, we've become more strict over time, and I think that strictness has actually really helped our marriage to strengthen in a lot of ways. I think it's been good for us. It's been a way for us to, you know, to just hold back a little bit sometimes to help you to appreciate more the touch and the being together and the closeness and the intimacy. I think that does help a marriage out. And so I definitely encourage you that are married to, you know, hold off during those times to even just start out. Maybe it's too hard to just, you know, cold turkey everything. But maybe you can say, hey, at least for this time, maybe we'll, you know, maybe for a few months, we're not going to hold hands. We're not going to just touch, but we don't have sleeping arrangements separated. So we'll at least do that, but we'll, you know, put a body pillow between us or something, you know, just so there's no cuddling. And then, you know, after a while, maybe you say, oh, we can figure out a way to be able to separate more. And I think there's like a little honeymoon when you get through with that. And the time is over, and there's like a nice little honeymoon season where you come back together, and it just feels good to be back in one another's arms. I think that the Lord again put that into our lives so that it would make it such that there's always a freshness to the relationship, and especially that when we talk about, you know, physical attraction and physical intimacy. I don't know. It just needs some freshness. You know, it can get a little old sometimes, and so, you know, mixing it up a little.
And then too, let's talk about like when before you're married too. I mean, you know, the Shomer Nagia thing, because
hard
have any.
as hell.
We don't only have married kids here.
I know. Well,
but just,
I mean, I sucked at it, I have to say, of course, and so I mean,
I'm
it's
not
hard for me to
talking-
be, you know, super religious for my other kids, but
No,
I can see the value of it. It is just, it's a time in your life when you just, I mean, the Lord really made it hard, honestly, for those times. It takes a lot of diligence. It takes a commitment just when you're young to not do that, so that you don't get to that point and say, oh, I gotta make a commitment now. It's like, no, you've actually made that commitment when you're younger, so that you're ready for it when it comes along. And I mean, I think, you know, Shomer Nagia means just absolutely no touch, and I understand that. I think it's honestly the best way. It just happens to be the hardest way. It's very difficult to accomplish that, to not touch the one who you love. I mean, touch is such a good way to show your affection, and yet it oftentimes will lead to other things that are forbidden. So, I mean, I think the way I've said it to some of you guys, as I've, you know, kind of helped you through a little bit, is that don't do anything with your partner that you wouldn't want somebody else doing with, if that partner, if you were going to marry somebody else and somebody else is doing that to your eventual partner. Just think about that. Think about what you do to that young girl or to that boy that's going to make it hard for their future relationships, that they've got to say, well, I was intimate with this other guy. That's going to make it hard it could make it hard on the marriage later on, and just make it hard relationship wise. So I feel like just thinking about that too, that's not from your own, that's thinking about somebody else, not just for your own needs and what you trying to avoid messing up. Now it's thinking about how you can protect somebody else's, you know, potentially somebody else's spouse. You are not married to that person yet, and so you got to be careful. You want to say something? So.
And I was just going to say, really, like, it's, you know, it has to take the two of you guys in relationship. I'm talking before people who are in relationships before they're married, coming together to come up with some boundaries and stuff, because there are lots of times when you're not going to be able to be held by anything but the two of you being, you know, being accountable to each other. And you know, you can have all of these lofty ideas, like Daddy said, like absolutely no touch before you're married is ideal, okay, but that might not be a thing for your relationship, but then you have to put some other boundaries in place.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Well, it could be a thing, but
I hate to say it. I mean, you just got to admit, it's like, how do you avoid being pregnant?
No, I don't mean not a thing.
Oh.
I mean not a thing like you may decide, we can't do no touch, okay? It's just too hard.
That's what I was trying to say. You can do it.
Well,
it's
I
the best. But I mean, you should strive for the best. I get it. Don't be weak. It's like it's hard. You should.
I know. But I'm saying, okay, so we have a couple people in relationships already that have touched or whatever, you know, or held hands or hugged or
Good or not.
whatever. And so, I don't know, like, yeah, maybe pulling back all the way back to no touch is probably the very, very best, but is it really going to happen? That's the thing I'm saying. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's hard. It's hard, like I said before, and I'm not kidding. It's hard as hell. It's the hardest thing you have to do almost. But I'm going to tell you that the rewards are worth it, and you can see that. That's the whole point I'm trying to make, is that when you hold yourself back, even in marriage, for that 1 week period or whatever the time period is, when you do that, you see the value of it. And so, yes, it would be valuable if you did it before you're married, because it's inappropriate then. And it's just as inappropriate in the marriage. It's inappropriate because that's something that the Lord has said, don't do that during that time. So I'm just saying, it's good practice, and you'll be proud of yourself. I don't think you're going to have any regrets about not touching before your marriage. That's the thing. You're going to have regrets about touching and accidentally going too far, accidentally, you know, just maybe taking away the innocence of that person before they should have. So to me, it seems like, you know, it is something to strive for. And I admit it. I didn't do it when I was young. I didn't even know about the concept. I probably would have been just as rebellious or would have struggled with that concept just as much as any of you will. But I don't know. I feel like I should strive for it. I feel like it should be something that it's a lofty goal, but it is a very, very powerful goal. And there's a book that's called Hands Off, This May Be Love. I can't remember the name of the author. It's a woman that wrote it, but and it's really good. Like it's it shows you that the relationship is built more than on just touch, of course, and it forces you to focus on those ways of showing your affection, showing your love for that person, and that you enjoy being with them. You do that not simply because you're it's easy to feel good when you physical touch. That's what it's all about. It's about feelings. It's feeling good with your hands and your bodies. But it's harder to get that good feeling and that enjoyable time together when you have to spend time emotionally talking with one another or interacting in a different way or playing games or being out with friends. So just put a lot of thought into how you can do this, because I think you shouldn't just say, "Wow, Shomer Negia, I'm not that orthodox. I don't really care." Yeah, maybe you're tough. Maybe you can handle it. Maybe you can just hold hands and that's all you ever go to, and maybe that's it. And fine, if that's what you decide and that's what you think you can handle, and you won't be tempted to go further. I guess for you it works out. But I'm going to tell you, most guys can't handle that, and most gals won't have the strength to shut their guy down when he's getting too grabby, because they get sucked into the vortex too. And it's hard when there's a lot of hormones raging to shut things down and say, I don't want to go this far. I don't think we should do this. This is inappropriate. You're not even thinking with your brain anymore. Now you're just thinking with your body, and your brain is shut off. And here's the other side of this too, unless you want to say something else.
I do have something to say, but
Go for it.
Are you moving along that same direction?
I'm moving on to something else. Yeah, if I can remember what it is.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel that's one of the sad things about not being, being in exile and not having a community, is because, when you can see the Orthodox and the way that they handle Shomer Negia, it's passed down, like the grandpas do it, the grandpas do, or the fathers do it, and the young men do it. I mean, and the ladies too. But I just, there's social pressure to do that good thing, right? And we live in such a place where the pressure is quite the opposite, and it's so normal. Like, what, you wouldn't hold hands before you're married? I mean, it's practically to the point, what, you should try them out before you're married. I mean, that's the dumbest thing, to get married before you know what that's even like between the two of you, and so I get that, like, it's hard that, like, this is a really big big thing to accomplish just as an island type thing,
It is.
So putting people around you that, like, your parents, if you involve your parents on both sides, and your friends, and having some good friends to help you be accountable. But I mean, solely it's the two of you that has to make it happen.
Yeah, because you're gonna find a little dark spot to go to if you really want to.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be under the eye of someone else that's watching out over you. You've got to watch out for yourself. You've got to bring God into the mix and say, this is going to be an honorable thing for me, the way I treat my potential spouse. And it's a potential. Anything can go. But until you go and stand up there on the altar and underneath that chuppah, they're not yours. They are someone else's potentially. I mean, I understand you're making moves toward getting that direction, but they're not yours till they're yours. And so save it. I think there's not going to be any regrets.
Yeah.
I have regrets. I have regrets that I didn't do that. I wish I'd been stronger. I wish I'd had the teaching. I wish I'd had more, I was not as disciplined then. I didn't have as much self-control then. I have much more now. I mean, kosher keeps your self-control. The nida keeps your self-control. You constantly are vigilant about, what am I putting in my body? What am I eating? What am I, and that's that I need to do that all the time to practice self-control. That's what the scripture says, to practice it. Because we'll suck without it. We got to go. We love you.
What,
Yep.
Did
It's
you
five
not?
seconds of, that's
Okay.
it. Say goodbye, see you later.